A farmers group blasts proposals of the National Economic and Development Authority and business groups to reduce tariffs on rice imports. Raul Montemayor, the national manager of the Federation of Free Farmers, questions the effectivity of the proposal. He says rice prices still rose despite the lowering of tariffs by up to 35% in 2021. The proposed tariff reduction seeks to cut import levies for ASEAN members from 35% to 10%.
Chinese Premier Li Qiang insists China has preserved regional stability in Southeast Asia. Li made that statement at the ASEAN-China summit in Jakarta. He said China and ASEAN's cooperation have come a long way. He also touted China's trade ties with the regional bloc, saying bilateral trade hit $970 billion in 2022. The speech comes a week after several ASEAN members and other countries condemned Beijing's map featuring a 10-dash line, asserting sweeping Chinese ownership over the South China Sea.
The key reason why China and ASEAN have achieved today's cooperation outcome is that we both have a deeper understanding of hardships. We both have a more relentless pursuit of peace. We both have a stronger aspiration for development, and we both take more pragmatic actions to preserve regional stability.
Li also warned it is important to oppose a Cold War when dealing with conflict between countries. He urged attendees of the summit to appropriately handle differences and disputes.
The Philippine president calling out dangerous maneuvers in the South China Sea at the 43rd ASEAN Summit. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. spoke Wednesday during a session with South Korea at the summit. Marcos thanked Seoul's support in upholding order in the region amid what he called unilateral attempts to alter the status quo in the waters.
We share concerns on the militarization of reclaimed features, the dangerous use of Coast Guard and maritime militia vessels, and other coercive activities. We are equally alarmed by the illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing which are being detected.
While not mentioning names, Marcos's remarks followed recent incidents in the South China Sea involving Beijing's Coast Guard. Just last month, Chinese ships used a water cannon on a Filipino vessel which was on a resupply mission to the Philippine outpost in Ayungin Shoal. In a separate ASEAN meeting with China, Marcos called once more for the passage of a code of conduct in the South China Sea.
We must emphasize that practical cooperation in the maritime domain can only flourish with an enabling environment of regional peace, security, stability, anchored in international law. The early conclusion of an effective and substantive COC that is in accordance with international law, including the 1982 UNCLOS, remains the goal for ASEAN and for China.
A Philippine lawmaker calls out a state-owned Philippine Health Insurance Corporation, or PhilHealth, over its multi-billion peso debt to hospitals. Partyless lawmaker Wilbert Lee says the agency's failure to settle its debts is affecting health services for the public.
Napakarami po ng mga hospital na hindi na tinatanggap yung mga indigent patients dahil daw po maraming utang ang PhilHealth sa kanila. And then marami rin po na hindi na raw po mapasweldo yung mga kanilang pong mga staff, frontliners, dahil po malaki ang utang ng PhilHealth. So yung gusto kong malaman, magkano ba ang utang ng PhilHealth dito sa mga hospitals na to at ano po ang plano ng PhilHealth dito?
The state insurer owes hospitals in the country some 27 billion pesos. But PhilHealth President and CEO Emmanuel Ledesma assured lawmakers they will settle their debt in the next 90 days. In the meantime, Ledesma says they are ready to initiate reforms to better serve the public, such as increasing the benefit packages, improving digitalization efforts to better manage claims, and increasing their manpower. Residents from the Philippine province of Oriental Mindoro start to receive compensation over the oil spill that began in February. Among those who received compensation were fisherfolk, vendors, and tourism workers who were affected by the government's ban on fishing and swimming. Some 800 residents from Calapan City were compensated on Wednesday. Officials say there are over 33,000 who submitted claims from Oriental Mindoro to Semirara Island in Antique. Eligible claimants can receive 3,000 to 70,000 pesos from the International Oil Pollution Compensation Fund, depending on their submitted documents and evidence.
Lahat ng nag-file ng claim na nakapasa na sa assessment at nabigyan na ng karampatan na more or less kwenta, yun yung makakatanggap na una. Kasi yung iba na kasalukuyang meron pang usapin sa mga ebidensya, whatever, ito yung ipahuhuli.
State volcanologists have recorded increased seismic activity in Canlaon volcano. PHIVOLCS says it has recorded 36 volcanic quakes. PHIVOLCS adds while Mount Canlaon remains under Alert Level 1, it may raise it to Alert Level 2 if the volcano shows further signs of unrest. Back in May, Canlaon emitted about 1,000 tons of sulfur dioxide, the highest figure recorded this year. The development prompted PHIVOLCS to warn of a looming phreatic eruption.